Hi all, welcome to this informal discussion we're having with two colleagues, Fortune Nossi on my left-hand side. Fortune joined the company quite a while ago, and he's in charge of the business development side of it. He's been in the solar game before. And then we've got Trevor here next to me as Chief of Operations, ran some large construction businesses in Africa, and he's also well astute with electrical engineering. He's got accreditations and as an engineer, and we got Trevor aboard about a year ago. But although I've known Trevor for a couple of years, also previous solar side, so he knows quite a bit of the solar guys, and we were prompting to have a discussion on where South Africa and Africa is at the moment in terms of the solar space, and where we believe it's moving to, and what common mistakes are that we believe clients are making, that we're seeing, and challenges that we're seeing in the industry. So it's a discussion of trying to educate and just share our challenges. And from EPC and a construction business, I mean, Solarcare started quite a few years ago solely as a construction company, supporting EPCs, but through the highly competitive part of the business, EPCs were forced to cut on pricing, and obviously the construction side was one of them. And we had made a decision to say that we're not going to really cut our prices too much, because we would believe that our quality would be compromised if we had to cut it more.
Absolutely.
And so we were finding that a lot of our pricing was starting to affect the EPCs, and they were looking at alternatives, but we weren't prepared to cut on quality of our work. And we were kind of forced to look into also becoming an EPC or developer. So that's where we're at. It's not that we wanted to be a competitor to our clients or our EPCs that were supporting us, but we had no other option to do it. So even though we're an EPC, we're not close to assisting large EPCs in doing their construction, because that's the origin of our company, right?
100%.
That's our ethos, that's our experience, and we perceive to be master builders in that industry. So I think today's discussion is to just share in the industry and put it out there, and hear what responses we get from the industry and from potential clients. And I think that's the aim of today's discussion.
Absolutely. I think, George, if we look at the disparity or the distinguished price point versus quality, how does a client evaluate that quality in this technical space where they're not qualified to? They're looking for consultants in the industry to qualify. And then now I just want to take this another level deeper, where we think about the qualifications of the consultant in a brand new space. How qualified is the consultant to specify something they've never installed? And then from our perspective and from the market space, how can the client evaluate what that quality should look like? And we are talking about a 25-year span, a plant life of 25 years.
Yeah.
And the client is going to get a 1-year, maybe 2-year warranty. And we're looking at 2 to 4 years before the plant starts failing if the client picked the wrong supplier. So that's just an interesting perspective.
Can I just start by touching from a business development point of view? In the forefront, what I've seen is when I engage with utility managers, ESG officers, and essentially procurement as well. Unfortunately, a lot of the guys that are at decision-making level are not too vested with the technical performance of solar PV plants, and the majority of the time relying a lot on the technical engineers. And that's a very big disparity, and it also affects companies like Solarcare and other EPCs, because now we are talking at a different level, but they are understanding it from a electrical technician who's consulting at that level. But really, the guys in the direct client they're not
The
understanding.
decision maker.
The decision makers, exactly.
And, and it's most of the times finance driven. So there's a
Yes.
there's a
point.
there's a
Yes.
price point. So everyone thinks we're selling a cold drink that you could buy at different supermarkets.
Yes.
It should be the same price.
Yes.
Why is this one more? And I think that's where the technicality part of it comes involved. And I think South Africa is a very highly competitive market in terms of price point, right?
Yes.
So you get different kinds of price. We've experienced it.
100%.
We've tendered prices and then
Yeah.
we are not successful in our bidding, and we say, okay, what have we done wrong? You know, and we've kind of always presented a Rolls Royce kind of product,
Yes.
and our viewpoint has been that the return of investment is so good
Yes.
on the solar, right? That extra going for the cheaper quote
Yes.
is not going to make such a big difference. Maybe 1% or 2% more on the
It'll
ROI.
add 2 months on the ROI.
But you're not necessarily guaranteed that the cheapest is going to last the longest.
Yes. 100%.
And the sad part is that guy will get awarded and that one might only last 2-3 months, 2-3 years. I mean,
Yes.
we've seen it.
Yes.
We've seen guys that we haven't been successful in. Those clients coming back to us and saying, we've got a big problem. We've got leaks, we've got things on firing properly. This after 2 years. The EPC is gone or the installer is gone and now they're sitting with those things. So the question here is, how do we get clients to really appreciate quality of install?
Yes.
And should they be awarding contracts, right?
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is
How they evaluate
So
the supply.
I think before looking at price point, qualify your EPCs first
Yes.
by their portfolio.
Yes.
Proof's always in the pudding,
Yes.
right? Qualify them, and how do you qualify them? From their portfolio and then physically going to inspect. And if you don't have the knowledge, get an engineering company to do it for you because you're spending big money.
Yes.
You could putting in a smaller, which is supposed to be smaller these days, 500 or 600 kilowatts, up to 2-3 megawatts. Get an engineer to go and have a look. Go look at the portfolio. So short list the guys that you want to do work with.
Yes.
What is the quality? Speak to the clients that they've installed for.
Yes.
Are you happy with the system? Just that extra mile.
Yeah.
Okay? And then you start looking at price point, compared apples to that.
But can I take it a level deeper? How many times has the client, so they come and look at the quality of our work and they might look at the quality of work of a competitor. If I were to be a client making a selection, I want to see the quality of the work and I want to meet the team.
Yes.
I want to meet, don't show me a site that a team built. Show me the team that built this site and bring me this team. Because in this industry, there is a team and there is an F team. It's a well-known challenge in the construction sector. And 99% of the time, client will say, I don't want the F team, but they're not evaluating which team they're getting.
Yeah, because when we started off as a construction business, right? I looked at my competitors and I looked at what are they doing differently. Just my salary point to my project managers was much higher than the industry.
Yes.
Because the industry was so competitive, guys were stealing each other's project managers.
Sure.
I said, I'm going to take the cream of the crop and pay them well enough
Yes.
that whoever wants to take my staff away if they were unhappy would have to pay a lot of money, right? So I did that, number one. Then I look at the tooling. What tools we were using? We use best. We partnered with Hilti. We only do Hilti stuff. The talk stuff that we do. The suppliers that we've gone. We've gone with the largest suppliers in the country, right? And in Africa that have said, okay, this is the quality. We won't skimp on that. So that price point created our price that we would then tender at. And then sometimes we would not be successful.
Yeah.
Because there was no value put to that. Because the client doesn't appreciate that the product that he's building has to be there for 20 years. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I think the industry, and that's a discussion for just now, the industry's, that plant won't be there for 20 years because technology is moving so quickly. We have found that the stuff that we've installed already, those clients are coming back to us as upgrading their stuff. Correct. The panels are bigger. There's ROIs they've seen, it's paid, it works.
Yes.
So we're doing that. We're adding batteries now to existing PV grids only because it's paid for itself. You know, so a lot of our property clients are getting better return on investment on their correct PV than on their lettable space. So we're optimizing the best, but we've already proved ourselves to those clients. they know they haven't had any issues with our plants that we built for many years.
Yeah.
So it's an easier sell. But how do we get into speaking to new clients and letting them appreciate and not just look at the price point?
Yes.
But George, what's interesting is some of our clients on price points have ventured, chosen another supplier or another installer to do the work, and then we've had to go back and fix the mess.
Yes.
How do you educate the client to not make those errors?
Well,
Because it's a turning point that they have.
Well, I tell you, it's interesting. So a lot of the bulk base of our clients these days are public-owned companies, right?
Yes.
So there's pressure on those procurement guys, not just to report into financial, but he has to make a decision that's sustainable to the asset value of the asset. If something breaks after 3 years because you went for a cheaper price point, a lot of those project managers have to be kept accountable. We've said to a lot of the guys, listen, in terms of even the operation and maintenance, how do you guarantee production 3-4 years down the line?
Correct.
And at that, what production point should it be producing at after 4 years?
Yeah.
And a lot of them can't answer us a question.
Yeah.
Not even the consultant can answer the question.
Yeah, because they're not monitoring it properly. They should be monitoring it not just in year 1 or 2 when there's a guarantee or production guarantees in place. They should be able to say it in year 5.
Yes.
Take the percentage of what the plant is now, the degradation of it, and what should it be producing. That's where the real value of this thing comes in.
100%.
So if you've got a substandard build, then it will show maybe 4 or 5 years time.
Definitely.
So
definitely.
there's a cable issue. I mean, I know how much you hate aluminium cables. I mean, what's your point on that? I mean, that cuts a lot of. That's not apples with apples.
No.
I think, George, the biggest challenge is that most of our tenders, the consultant won't specify a type of cable, and the bidders would then bid the cable, and it's a 6 mil copper cable. Meantime, it's not fully copper. So if the consultant is not placing a specific cable by its serial number in the tender, then the disparity in how the pricing comes forward means that the client is actually going to be purchasing a substandard cable, which is only going to figure out 4 to 5 years later when the cables fail and they have to rebuild the site.
No, 100%.
That's just one example.
Then you'd lose the apple with apple. You're not comparing it.
Speaking of apples with apples, I think it would be great for the engineering consultancy firms to also knock at the EPC's doors, come to Solarcare's door, and let's have a uniform standard, especially when we look at bidding documents. I can give you a case in point where we've got 5 different consulting engineers and everybody has their own bidding document.
Correct.
They all have their own, whether it's SANS or IES or SABS standards, that is just a clause rating, but it's not saying, okay, this cable, this walkway, specifics. Let's have the specifics. Then we'll have apples with apples.
Yeah.
So, you know, then you would know that, okay, if somebody is pitching at this rate per watt, then you obviously know that they have not met the spec, you know, and that would go a long way. That would really go a long way.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of standardizing it, because if something goes wrong on the plant, it's not often that engineering firm will be put to task.
No, it's
It
not.
could be the EPC or the
Yes.
installer. They'll be put to task, and the EPCs, with all due respect, are all just following to get work. Will just follow to what the engineers dictating to them, like you say.
Yeah.
He believes aluminium is the best and he sticks to aluminium. But they will, in most cases, and I'm putting it out there, I don't think they're so much accountable as much as we are accountable as being on the ground.
Yeah.
So there's quite a valid point. I think standardizing the quality is important.
Yeah,
And-
definitely.
And also the equipment used in terms of optimizers used to non-optimizers. We won't mention the name, but we are a big installer of a massive company that uses optimizers.
Correct.
I think I don't know if we're one of the largest in that, but in terms of the C&I space, we could be installing 10, 12, 40 megawatts just of the specific companies.
Yes.
It's not the only brand that we do, obviously, but how we've seen the value of that, where you can actually pinpoint
Yeah.
production,
String by string. Yes.
you know,
yes.
and they are slightly more expensive than all the normal other guys, but the clients don't see the value of that extra. You know, they don't. And the EPCs don't really see that because they're forced to a price point. So the EPC, I would like to put this in, but I can't persuade my client. He's not going to think we're taking him for a ride because it's a rand or what more.
Yes. That also goes into the longevity of a plant. Unfortunately, on the O&M space, it's a new thing, especially with our REITs. It's only something that's come in 2-3 years ago, where now they're enforcing the O&M, where you now have to look at after the EPC, the plant is built, now you look at a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year O&M contract where you need to clean the panels, where you need to have the checks. And sometimes it's only at a foundational level where just clean the panels. But now what about the preventative maintenance? What if there's a fuse born? What if cables have gone?
That should be done from day one.
Yes.
It's not after the fact start looking on. And we've seen that with the O&M guys. They try to push us down on maintenance costs and we say we refuse to.
Yeah.
We have to do a full analysis.
And you've got to send qualified people inspect the plot. We're not sending a labourer to watch a solar panel.
But also labourers, it's proactive, fixing a semi-skilled to go and just fix to a MC4 or whatever. It's not that. Before that even happens, to have an electrician go and check those plants.
Yes.
But when you delve into the production of the plant, you will quickly get to know your plant. You will quickly get to know as an OEM, what should the plant be producing, what should this be doing at that age, and pass it on to your client and advise your client. So I think it's not happening. And if you look at, with all due respect to very large solar EPC companies that have been around for many years and were the biggest, we're seeing that a lot of those larger guys are not being invited back to tenders on existing plants on page 2 and 3 of things.
Yeah.
Purely because the client has lost its faith in certain some of them, right? Why? Because they went on price books. They had such a big business that they could undercut everyone because bulk buying, but necessarily not giving the necessary quality. And that's kind of showing to it. So that's not enough of proof, and the industry must tell us. The industry must agree with us or do not agree.
Yes. Yeah.
If that is happening, or if we're just being opportunistic. But we're seeing it. We're seeing why we're getting invited back to quote on jobs that were done by the bigger companies.
Yes.
And some of those companies don't even look in the CNI space anymore. They've moved on to bigger
utility
stuff.
And such.
And I think it's with that ethos of quality that we've decided to also move into utility space.
Correct.
Because utilities...
The race to zero.
The race to zero, because the margins are so tight, right?
Yeah.
But one thing you cannot compromise is the quality of the install. Because a lot of those ROIs built on those big utilities because of the price point that they're selling at, right? Needs the longevity of a plant. So if anyone has to look at quality, it's utility guys.
Correct.
Because the
quality takes on a whole new meaning.
The shopping centers under 5 years. I mean, it's some are close to 4 years.
Correct.
Grid-tied paybacks. They pay it back in 4 years. With utility boys, they've got to run many years, right?
Definitely.
So their quality is what's going to give the longevity of their plants. It's so much more to have quality there. And that's where we've positioned ourselves to say, you can't really skim more on the labor. This is what the quality of the install is. This is the quality control that we give, and that's where we're at. And we're not prepared to compromise as Solarcare on that. And it'll be interesting how the utility market perceives us, how they accept us.
Definitely.
You know, if we're going to be competitive in that space.
Yes, yeah.
South Africa, race to zero, I think. It's a very tight and very competitive market. Africa, where we're moving into, we've been invited to some large utility tenders.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. And please God, we'll definitely hook one of them. Because we certainly have something to offer. But I think there's a bit more forgiving because a lot of guys don't want to play in that space because of the challenges. And some of the tenders that we're entertaining is in some challenging spots. Luckily, we got Trevor. He's played in the African market, so he knows some of the countries and the things that we're playing in. But I think ultimately, the quality, what is the value of quality? So what is the message to the end user? Get engineers, qualify EPCs.
Yes.
And then look at price.
Yes.
Don't look at price and think a piece of paper and guarantee you're going to sue someone or to try and come fix something afterwards. We've seen it. It's too late in some cases. I mean, we're recently doing a rebuild where we have to take stuff off, Trevor, where some of the one of the biggest EPCs in this country built 3 years ago.
Yes.
First of all, why did he build on that roof if it wasn't really cleared properly? And the installation was substandard that is damaged that roof.
Correct.
Now they've got to refix it, eh?
Correct.
And I mean, that plant is how big? Is it?
No, but that EPC wasn't even invited back to do the repair.
But how big is that job?
600 kilowatts.
600 kilowatts. So it's not small. It's not a small center. It's for a shopping center.
Yes.
Now that has to be taken off, put back. It's going to cost the guys, I don't know, 200,000-300,000 rand
Just to
build it and refix it. So and that's not. We've been on cases where one of the largest roofs installations initially was built not by us. We had built for the same public company. We had built. They had two major shopping centers. We built the one, and they shared it with a competitor of ours. That competitor created so much damage on that and the thing that 5 or 6 years later they've asked us to go and re-look at it. And stringing diagrams and stuff has not been there. So we don't even know what's happening to the inverters. The roof damage is starting to cause leaks within the stuff. When we gave them the price to try and rebuild it, the guys think we were opportunistic. They thought we were lying to them. So we had to show them the proofs.
Yes.
You understand me? So these are the negative parts.
George, I want to move on. Fortune talked to us about Bucky Brigade, and I want to qualify. I think the perception is that a Bucky Brigade is a Bucky leaking oil that arrives with guys that do know what they're doing, but they can just operate at a much lower price point.
Yes.
But they don't have the blue chip balance sheet to back their business and provide the 5-year guarantee of quality. But so under we all know what a Bucky Brigade is.
Yeah.
But there's a new Bucky Brigade in town.
Yes.
And that is the cream of the residential space that is no longer sustained in the residential space due to the shift in markets and is now entering the commercial space.
Yeah.
They state they've got all the experience in the world, which to some extent they do, but they are going to cut their teeth with a commercial client, or 2 or 3 before they can really have the experience to step into this industry.
Yes.
So Fortune, I don't know if you want to just share your perspective on that.
Well, that's really an interesting one. And again, it also comes back to our clients, especially on, like you mentioned earlier, George, our significant rate of clients now is looking at the public spaces, our REITs predominantly. So firstly, really, the guys at the helm, like I mentioned, the ESG officers, the utility managers, they really need to start understanding solar energy as well. Just from a educational standpoint, you don't really have to get technical. Then you begin to differentiate between this installer and that EPC and that APC. And as you mentioned, our Bucky Brigade crew. Okay, so that impacts the bigger EPCs such as ourselves, because now, okay, let's just say we as Solarcare are coming in at X rate per watt, and the Bucky Brigade company is coming in at X rate per watt. Okay, fine, their P's and G's are lower, their labor costs are lower, but what does that really mean? We've got a qualified project management team on our side. We've got
Quality control.
Yes.
We now recently we'll get our ISO accreditation now in the next month or 2. We've gone that step, just that alone, in having those quality control measures cost us X amount. So
Definitely.
they don't have that.
They don't have that. Yes. So it's really building the systems in place. And unfortunately, those systems will cost an extra rand or 2 or 3 per watt.
That's what distinguishes.
And that's what distinguishes
from the crews that arrive from home
and
to Bucky.
And as well as if you tell us that, okay, I want you guys to build this plant in this date, it must be commissioned and signed off. We will do that. When we come in and say we are giving you guys this rate on our bid, we're not gonna now want to VO our way to a certain price point. And unfortunately, that's what's happening in the industry, And now when we start to talk about these elements, quality, our price point, it seems as if we're just trying to shoot the lights out,
But it's saying some guys VOing themselves into a price point because they come in. It's also the lack of the client's knowledge that the guys create enough loopholes for people to fall into them we've seen that.
Yes.
Because we've seen at some prices that pitched, right? And we think, how the hell are they getting it?
Yeah.
There's no way that they can do it. They're buying from where we're buying. We're on and then how are these guys doing it?
George, a seasoned EPC that exploits the opportunity that they see where the client's inquiry document lacks. They will then quote what the client asked for. Once they have the contract, they will then establish variation orders to add what we would never have left out of a tender.
Yeah.
And that's one of the key areas where we are often more expensive than another bidder.
Yes.
Nobody shows their bill anymore. The clients are not giving us a bill to price that there's an apple for apple view, and the elements left out of the competitor's price is what becomes the shortfall on the bid.
If we look at VOs, I mean, there's EPCs that we've built for that have given us multiple megawatts worth of builds a year. And I don't even think we've issued one VO in a year.
Never.
Because we are just too transparent. So you get knocked on the head for being transparent, but then you're not successful in some cases.
Yeah.
So,
Which would you rather be there?
well, if you look at the sustainability of our company, we've been around 8 years and we built ourselves from a humble, small little team. And we then ultimately got ourselves to
So, George, are you saying you started as a bucket brigade?
No, we didn't start as a bucket brigade, but there's a negativity to it. But in terms of our size, we had to start somewhere, right? Actually, if matter of fact, our first install 8 years ago was a 2.2 megawatt. We fell into the hot water line very quickly, and luckily we survived because of the ways we did things. But there's the bucket brigade or the inferior EPC. We've recently worked with an EPC where their health and safety was non-existent.
Correct.
Our files, as you know, we have in-house health and safety department, health and safety officer. These guys' files were never right, and the client kind of just forgave it. And we was later on established that these guys some of them didn't have working on heights. The guys were snagging the work.
Correct.
I mean, and they were working for a big public company. If the guy fell off a roof there, that was the EPC's, what was the repercussion? We kind of distanced ourselves. We warned them and said, listen, we do not want to be part of that.
Yes.
Why? Because of reputation.
Yes.
I built a reputation for 8 years. We built branding and we built this portfolio and we've done this stuff and quality checks and ISOs. One guy must fall off a roof because they weren't really accredited or harnessed properly. And then where does it know where is the industry? So I think the challenge is to keep the quality up, but to get accredited for it. How do you get the credit for that?
100%.
And it's education like this to speak to our client to say, you as an ethos, as a public company or a big commercial company, who do you want to align yourself with?
100%, yes.
Because we look only at price point. Price point is not it. The return on investment is so good. Don't compromise.
100%.
In reason.
In reason, yes.
I've got a question for you. So I entered the business year 7. I arrive in a business that is purely an installer. Take us through your thinking and why you established your business purely as a quote and unquote a master builder, and you've established yourself in this marketplace as a master builder. Now moving into the EPC space where you provide the turnkey solution. But just take us through your thinking over 7 years of becoming a master builder.
So we would have preferred to stay master builders. But we found that our EPCs who were working with us, they were getting pressured by the market for the same reason.
Yes.
They were
Price point.
price point. So they had to squeeze all their suppliers, of which one we won.
Correct.
And we were prepared to come up to a certain price and say, okay, but lower than this we can't go.
Yeah.
So our intention is never to have started EPC because we perceive that we're competing with our clients, right? We would never do that intentionally on clients that we existing have relationships with. But the market has kind of forced us to do so. And when I say we work in EPCs, we will probably partner with existing EPCs that we've worked with because we know their quality of work as well.
Especially from an engineering perspective.
If we are an EPC for Solarcare, we don't just pick our EPCs randomly for just getting work. We align ourselves with the same quality and same professionals.
Correct.
And there's some of the EPCs we built for that are fantastic EPCs.
Yes.
They're great. Why? Because they've got an ethos, they've got a pride, they align with us.
Yeah.
So we will probably be doing work, most probably in collaboration more often, Trevor.
Correct.
In Africa, in South Africa, we would work with the guys that we've worked before. All depending if they want to work with us. And then the price has to be right for everyone to be able to eat.
Definitely.
So this is a question of being forced into a market which was naturally not our move. Our move is not, because to become an EPC wasn't necessarily mean you make more money.
Yeah.
We were specialists and now we're kind of forced to become EPCs because we also appreciate our client EPCs that give us work, that they also need to make money.
Yes.
But we won't compromise too much on the price.
Yes.
Because once you do that, you have to get a substandard project manager, a non-skilled project manager. You got to cut on quality there to...
We're unable to send a qualified team.
Qualified team, the numbers that we build, I mean, we can deploy 100 people like this overnight.
Yeah.
Guys that are health and safety accredited, that are medical done, they're on our books, they've worked for us, they've got experience like this.
100%.
Not many APCs
Trained over 8 years.
Yeah.
over 8 years.
Not trained over 8 years.
Say that. We can do that. That is where our value lies.
Yes.
Is the deployment of stuff.
Without having to issue a subcontract for that, we keep our internal.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's not many EPCs that have got internal teams.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Not many of them.
That was going to be my next question.
Oh, yeah.
So, have you ever subcontracted another team to do your work?
Once.
Only once.
Once we did a small little team and they did great work.
Okay.
The subcontractor, because we know him. But if I say maybe had a 5-man team, so we weren't talking that we're building hundreds of kilowatts. And purely because of the fact that we were full of capacity and the client wanted a due date. So we said we could qualify, otherwise we would not take up the work. But in-house, we've never subcontracted. We'll keep it in-house and we'll keep it ourselves because we're in control of that quality. Especially now, going to the ISO route where we get to a standard.
Yeah.
We can't afford to get subcontractors. So rather upskill within our company, like you've seen we've done. We've worked with certain programs of guys that we've employed that have been accredited and they couldn't get work and we pull them in.
Yes.
And we kind of upskill and go through our program of education, and then we see if they fit in with the ethos of the company.
Yeah.
And that's the most important. I'm very reluctant. Skill can be transferred to someone, but the ethos and a good culture and good attitude.
DNA is caught, not taught.
Yes. I still think there is a lack of collaboration between not only the industry professionals, but as well as stakeholders, the ESCOMs, the nurses, the other stakeholders that directly impact this industry.
Yes.
I mean, I will give you an example on a phenomenon that's now coming up, wheeling and virtual wheeling. And now this is simply caused because predominantly REITs, roof spaces, is now running out. But at the end of the day, they still need electricity. There's still development that's going on. There's still growth. There's still an economy that is growing. At the back end, we've got electricity costs that are increasing year on year, and that's on the ESCOM and municipality side. Now, at the end of the day, these are still businesses that need to keep their operational costs down. But then now, we look at this new sector that's coming up, wheeling and virtual wheeling, and there's still a great disparity between what is actually happening and what is supposedly supposed to be happening. What's being published, what's being gazetted versus what's happening on the ground, big disparity. And really, I still believe as an industry, we really need to have a roundtable discussion about this, because it's a brilliant idea and it will really sort out a lot of the
Well,
challenges.
it'll fund the economy. I mean, the closer we get to speak to each other, the more we get to share
Yes.
what the challenges are and get to the solution.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got people that I know that in the restaurant industry, and what they used to pay for electricity 5 years ago to now become a very huge line item, and it's killing the industry.
Yeah.
That's just in the restaurant industry, for example. But another thing that's interesting to the phenomenon of the renewable space, right, is load shedding. So load shedding is kind of disappeared and it pops its head now and then. And that seems to have had a direct impact to sales.
Yeah.
In the
Decision
industry, right?
Decision making, yeah.
But I think the South African public and the commercial businessmen missed the boat totally. Solar energy is not just a substitute to load shedding. Solar energy as a line item is a new return of investment
Yes.
to implement it.
Yes.
The load shedding alternative was just an alternative, was just an add-on extra that it would help you.
Yeah.
The fact that solar energy is needed still in renewable space by far beats any price
Yes.
of any supplier, either the municipal or yes,
Yeah.
by hands down. So the effect that the economy is at is, do we go and spend money on renewable because it's a big capex? And then look at alternative. Have it financed, PPA it.
Yes.
Even the PPA will still beat Eskom or municipality all day long.
100%.
Then do it that way. Then you don't have to spend any more money.
Okay.
PPA, purchase power agreement.
Yeah.
Go and buy it. Get someone else to fund it.
100%.
Why are you paying that expense anyway?
Yeah.
End of the month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Buy it cheaper. Start cutting, because our economy is so highly competitive. We're not looking at, so everyone says, okay, but there's no more load shedding, so I don't need
So don't only solar, yeah.
Guys, don't do this.
You're still paying for the
Speak to
electricity at
people.
the end of the day. Yeah.
You're paying it, and you're paying a lot.
Yeah.
And is it going to go down, our opinion?
No.
No.
No ways.
Do you believe that, Trev?
Absolutely.
You believe the prices are going to go down?
Absolutely.
What? In utility, our utilities and our municipalities? Certainly not. I see you being facetious. So
I just wanted to see your facial expression.
yeah, so renewable is, everyone should be entertaining renewable. If anything, do the maths.
Yes.
Get a guy to quote you, do the model.
Yeah. 100%.
You know? Not, it's load shedding, because we've seen it. We've seen it when load shedding starts. All of a sudden, commercial guys that we quoted 6 months, a year ago,
Yes.
they phone us. Listen, can you guys, we got 2 weeks. Can you, in 2 weeks' time, put up this plant? It's a 5 million rand plant. Quickly do it. Listen, where you been the last year?
It doesn't work.
Ah, but load shedding is here, and we think it's going to stay. And we hear stories that these substations are going to burn down, and their story, it's like the myths and stuff. And then the industry takes a dip, then it goes up, takes a dip. It shouldn't even be that way.
I'll be honest. I'll give credit to some of the REITs that have future-proofed their portfolios. And now this is very smart, because they don't only consider the load shedding, but they've actually looked at the model. This is seeing that, you know what, solar does save us 40%, 50%, 60% on our operational expenses. And it just keeps getting better year on year.
Even if it's just, fortunately, even if it's just grid tied,
Yes.
just grid tied, and they don't have capex for batteries, like, for example, the fact that they are saving up front can get them to a stage where they can get batteries in
100%.
much quicker.
Yeah.
Where they can have clever ways of saving energy, peak shaving, for example. That saving could justify putting in batteries.
Yes.
Then the add-ons and the saving just become, but I don't think the guys are entertaining it because they're intimidated by the capex.
Yes.
And I think it's got to do a lot with the confidence people have in our economy. Then if you don't have it, give it to the funders. Buy the energy from them.
Yeah.
Buy the energy for them at a reduced price
100%.
with the same outlook.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I mean, we've seen it over and over.
George, let's take this discussion to our new venture, strategically moving into Africa, taking 8 years of tenacity 8 years of experience and now taking that and applying that into the African continent. Just take us through your strategic action there and your thinking.
So Africa, in some countries, will always kind of be a challenge. It will be like any challenge for a company to go cross border. But the beauty of Africa is that African companies, we've seen, are so used to paying huge energy costs. In some of the mines that we're speaking to are 100% generator run. Can you imagine what they're burning?
Yeah.
Diesel that. I'm telling you now, 10, 12, 13 rand a watt. That the difference in the renewable space and the saving is so huge that they can almost not fathom it. And that is what makes me excited about Africa. It's a new market. It's very untouched in terms of renewable space. The renewable space can, as an alternative, not only support the industries, but also give some energy to communities, surrounding communities.
Yes.
Either mini-grid systems or whatever the case may be. So it could empower Africa, not just in business and saving costs on energy, but also give a better quality of life.
Infrastructure development.
Infrastructure for development. And Africa is got enough land. We've got enough sun.
Yes.
We need political will.
Yes, definitely.
And then we can apply our experience.
Correct.
Building a quality product on the African soil. So to our African clients that might be listening to it, commercial clients, we are open for business. No matter what country you are, we would look at the solution.
Definitely.
So we would look at the solution and deploying. Trevor's played in the African space for long in the electrical field in this previous company where he was involved in. So we understand some of the challenges, and every country comes with its own merit and credit. And it doesn't mean that South Africa is superior to any other African country, where it is, because we have our own challenges in South Africa as well.
Yes.
Africa is open to business, and there's opportunity for us to penetrate that market.
Definitely.
And that's where we're at the moment. Just by our mindset this year of just looking to entertain Africa, Trev, you've seen the RFQs that are coming in for us, where the guys want us to build some of the stuff. I mean, our first RFQ we got was for 10 megawatts, so it's not small projects. So we're happy to be able to entertain and deploy guys into that.
Yeah.
But I think with our current expertise and track record, we're best suited to implement a 10 megawatt project.
Yeah, and also the speed we'll build it at.
Yes.
I mean, we've because we were a construction business, right? We got paid per watt, but our expenses were on a daily basis, so on our production. So we value engineered.
Expenses rands per hour, paid by client rands per watt.
Paid for what? So the client wouldn't pay 1 cent more if it took a month longer.
Yes.
So we initially had built our methodology regarding the value chain and optimizing staff production and managers. And that high quality manager is where that value then comes in.
Definitely.
So if you plant 30 or 40 guys on building a plant and 40 in another plant, the one that gets managed the best will be more profitable to us, right? So that's where our other value lies, in the speed of building these plants as well. Because the quicker at quality we can build a plant, we can move on to the next project.
Yes.
So I think that's one of our advantages.
Yes. Georgia, I want to table another interesting phenomena. Electrically, where an IE has an electrical qualification and is qualified to sign off an electrical installation, the expertise lay in electrical. So I'll give you an example. So you take a young gentleman who's got 10, maybe 15 years of experience with Anglo Platinum. He resigns from Anglo Platinum and he steps into the solar space. He generally he previously operated as a maintenance electrician, highly qualified, highly skilled, excellence being his portion. But now he steps into this space, and what we now see is a person that has never been in a DC environment, stepping into the space. He looks the part. He arrives at your offices with the solar stickers on his door. He mentions SunSync. He mentions Huawei. He mentions
all the brands.
All the brands. So he looks the part.
Been to the launches. He
100%.
knows the model numbers.
But he's got absolutely no clue what he's doing.
So he was in the mining side, right?
100%.
Yeah. So your question is?
The question is, if clients are not astute to this and are not doing their homework, as we brought up earlier, there's a huge danger for them in this space. To employ somebody that says the right things and looks the part, but has absolute, and I think many clients have burnt their fingers in this area.
So that comes back to the knowledge and having a consultant that has had the experience to lead you.
100%.
And I assume you're not just talking about houses. This guy building maybe industrial or
they're stepping into the commercial space because the residential space isn't done.
Yeah, so there's many of those guys. Just the health and safety already should be the first red flag.
Yes.
How many of the guys are health and safety? Show us the certifications, low affiliations, sapphire affiliations.
Yes, yeah.
Just those kind of things. Just in terms of the size, which is the thing that are just few pointers of elimination of making a mistake.
Yes.
I hear you, and I think that's made a big shift in the market. We see this price point being driven down by guys like that. Are there substandard work being done? For sure. We've seen it. We've consulted on it on other people's roofs. We've experienced it. Sadly, that it's now time to show itself. I think in the case of the banks financing these deals, I think they need to be a bit more strict on who they appoint as installers or qualifying guys. And I think you should be given points on the quality of your installation.
Yeah, definitely.
If a company is a say approved installer of a bank, they've done a substandard, it should be looked to whether they stay on that
role, yeah,
on that board, or what do they call them on their approved list.
Yeah.
And I think you're just as good as the last install you did.
Definitely.
I think it'll clean up the industry a lot. But the fact that it goes back to my initial point where I say qualify the installer before you're looking at the price.
Yes. Yeah, no.
We've been to sites, very fortunate.
Yes.
Where the initial contractor was pushed down so much. And we were asked we never bid on that job at all. They had problems with the inverters that are burnt out, and they asked us to come and assist. And we just challenged and said, but this inverter should not have burnt out. Inverters just don't burn out.
Yes.
Like fire. Doesn't just happen. So we were asked for purposes of insurance just to go and quote to replace. And I said to the business developer that was on the project manager working on that quote, I said, you just don't go back. Go and do an inspection, go and check it out. It was a 600 kilowatt system. The guys had been pushed down on price that the installer never earthed the whole roof. There was no earthing done.
Sure.
At all. Brings us back to expertise.
Not at all. So it came to expertise and a guy cutting corners.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of forced to because of the job.
Yes.
So we said to that client that it has to be totally redone.
Yeah.
It's not, we wouldn't touch, we're not going to replace anything.
Yeah.
This is the way we do it. If we're not, we're walking away.
Yeah. And look, I think that's very much of a valid points that we've touched on. And we hope that the industry will hear us out. These are some controversial topics. We know that some people want to turn their ears away to this, but it's exactly what's happening in the industry.
Well, we get the narrative out there,
Yeah.
talking about it. People agree, we agree to disagree. Let us.
Yeah.
We'd like to get input.
Would love to, definitely.
And we'd like to
deal with this.
agree with it because we want to make the industry right. We want to get a standard. And not just a standard that excels a South African company
playing in the African market, playing in the world market.
Yeah.
Because we in Africa, people should think we're substandard, we're small markets. We are big and just as best to compete with anyone in the world. We've collaborated recently on a build, with a Dutch company. And they were so worried about, for their client that's South African, as a multinational, they did the stuff and we did the install for them. They found nothing wrong with the install. Remember? Absolutely. They were happy. They were so worried. Now they were going to send their own teams to come and build it, because I said to them, good luck, guys. You're going to send 20 Dutch oaks to come and build in Africa where we have work. You're going to have a right on your hands. Trust us.
100%.
Trust us. And we took them to 1 or 2 of our sites and saw the work that we did.
Yeah.
And there was never an issue. And as a matter of fact, we might be doing some more work with a Dutch company now. And there's similar other international companies that could partner with us in Africa.
Yes.
Okay?
And that's a great point.
That's where we want to be.
It's a great point.
We want to be with those guys. We want to be the go-tos. One thing for sure, we will not turn our backs if a thing has to be repaired or the quality is not at standard.
Yeah.
Our name is too important to say, listen,
George,
that's what distinguishes us. We don't only say we're going to do it good. We don't only proclaim that we will build a quality install. We deliver it, and on any aspect that is not done to the client's satisfaction or done correctly, it will be rectified immediately. 100%. And that's why a lot of our public business companies that deal with us, some of them don't even they do a closed tender and just say, you are preferred. You're going to build it. You're going to build up plants. And we've built many of them in the same groups.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, the top quality class, which I'm alluding.
Yeah.
Top quality guys. So when people come and wanted to engage us and do business with them, we invite them. We give them our list of installs.
Yes.
Go check them. The proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
We don't veer off.
Yeah.
We're not Google Meets or a Teams meeting and we want you to spend millions. Let's come
face to face. Let's do a face to face. Yeah.
Take it to a roof.
Yeah.
Take it to a carport. Take it to a ground mount.
Yes.
Yeah. And the exciting part of it, Trevor, is the mining industry is very exciting for us to play in, because I think they pay a lot for energy.
Yeah.
And the agricultural side. And if we can get agriculture and energy cheaper, especially with food. We recently spoke to the head of agriculture for African Union, where food security is one of his biggest topics and something to be spoken now at the G20. We have intensive talks with him. And he was saying how energy is a challenge in the agricultural rural side of Africa, where food security is important. Can you understand how we could move the economies of this country and countries in Africa, giving them energy as cheap as we can go, and empowering them to be able to create food security for their countries?
Yeah.
It's there.
Very
Just
important.
elect.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of bankable financial institutions that have come to us that will back us to do this, because they'll trust the installer and they've got the money and the willpower to do this for food security.
Yeah.
So we could fundamentally change Africa very quickly. Because if we find an opportunity, we can cost it 2 weeks' time, we can be on the ground. 4 months' time, you build a plant and there's a different new energy source feeding an agricultural sector. Up to 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt, no problem.
100%.
Can happen.
Yeah, sure.
So it's exciting.
Exciting stuff, definitely, yeah.
Wait for people to engage us. And speak to us.
Yeah, definitely.
Speak to us.
So
if you don't even do business well, at least we can advise you.
yes, 100%.
On that topic, if you're working on a project as we speak, utility space, double carport structure, rooftop structure, click on the link below and get in touch with us. We are ready to build your next project.
Yes.